Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're enjoying your holidays and the recipes I've been posting. This will actually be the last video of 2021 and I'm going to take a few weeks off, so I'll see you again in the middle of January. Today I'll be making Kniepertjes and Nieuwjaarsrolletjes, treats that are traditionally eaten around New Year's in the northeast part of the Netherlands. I did not grow up eating these, but when I was at the Naval Academy, one of my classmates introduced me to them and I've been making them ever since. Hi, I'm Toine and welcome to my kitchen. If you're new to this channel, I focus on cooking foods from my home country, the Netherlands, and some of its former colonies such as Indonesia. So what are Kniepertjes and Nieuwjaarsrolletjes? They are cookies that represent the story of the year. So on December 31st, traditionally, you eat Kniepertjes, and it's a flat cookie because you have unrolled the scroll and read the story in its entirety. Then on January 1st, you will get a Nieuwjaarsrolletje, a cookie that is still rolled up because the story hasn't started yet. We'll start by making the dough for Kniepertjes. For this you will need 400 grams of all-purpose flour, 300 grams of superfine sugar, 150 grams of room temperature butter, 2 eggs, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, half a teaspoon of vanilla extract or vanilla paste, I'm using vanilla paste, and a pinch of salt. You may also need some water depending on the consistency of the dough. The first step is to cream the butter, sugar, salt and vanilla paste together. So I already have the butter in the bowl. I'm going to slowly start adding the sugar, just a little bit at a time. Now that the sugar is all in the bowl, I'm going to add my salt and vanilla paste and mix until it's fully combined. If you use vanilla paste, you're going to see tiny little black flecks in your butter and sugar mixture. Those are the little vanilla seeds that are in the paste. This is well combined. Now it's time to add the eggs. Okay, I'm going to add the cinnamon to my flour and just mix that together. I'm going to turn my mixer back on and then slowly add the flour. I'm going to add the last little bit of flour to the bowl and we're going to mix that through. The dough has come together and it should have the consistency of soft Play-Doh, so this is perfect. If your dough feels dry, add a tablespoon of water and mix it through. And now we're going to roll it into little balls. You want to have approximately walnut-sized balls of dough. So I'm just going to roll them and put them on this plate. They will then go in the fridge for at least an hour. While I'm using a scooper, I'm not filling it all the way because it is too large. It ends up being a little bit more than a walnut, so I'm just adjusting it as I roll them. And it's okay if they're not exactly the same size. You're going to put them on the waffle iron and they're going to flatten out and they will just have a slightly smaller diameter. Just do the best you can. If they're not perfectly the same size, not a big deal. And then I think I have enough for one more in here. Just make sure I get it all. I made 30 full-sized balls of dough and one little baby ball out of this batch. Now I'm going to cover it with some plastic and then put it in the fridge for an hour. If you're enjoying this video, please click the like and subscribe button. It will really help our channel. And if you want YouTube to notify you whenever we post a new video, click the bell. While the balls of dough for Kniepertjes are resting in the fridge, we can make the batter for the Nieuwjaarsrolletjes. For this, you will need 140 grams of all-purpose flour, 140 grams of superfine sugar, 115 milliliters of hot water, 60 grams of room temperature butter, 1 egg, and half a teaspoon of vanilla extract or vanilla paste. While I am making a dough for the Kniepertjes and a batter for the Nieuwjaarsrolletjes, some families use the same recipe, either a dough or a batter, for both of them. We're going to start by adding the hot water, sugar, and butter to a bowl. I don't know why they do it this way. I don't ask. I just follow the recipe I was given. Why don't you just start with melted butter? But I have been following this method ever since I was taught it. If you know why we do it that way, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Now we're going to mix the flour through the water, butter, sugar mixture. And just keep mixing that until you see no more lumps. Add the egg and the vanilla. And you know what I should have had here? The spatula. I added my flour to the warm liquid first to drop the temperature enough so that when I added the eggs, they didn't get curdled. I'm going to check the consistency of the batter, and I do that by letting the batter fall off my whisk, and it should fall off in a ribbon. If it is too thin, then add a teaspoon of flour and mix it through to check it. If it's too thick, add a teaspoon of water and check it again. I have everything set up to make Nieuwjaarsrolletjes. What you'll need is a waffle cone iron to bake them, a spatula to remove the waffle from the iron, something to roll your Nieuwjaarsrolletjes around. I'm using the handle of my trusty pollepel. And I like to use double paper towel to aid in rolling them without burning your hands. And then of course a plate to put the finished product on. I have added the batter to a squirt bottle. I find that the easiest way of doing it. However, you can just use a spoon or even pour it out of a measuring cup. I've put a little non-stick spray on the waffle iron. So let's make the first one. I'm going to add in the center, close the lid, latch it, and I have it on the hottest setting, and it will take 1.5 minutes to bake. Of course, the amount of batter that you add to the iron will determine how large your waffle and therefore your Nieuwjaarsrolletje is. So you may have to experiment and find the size that you like best. 1.5 minutes is over. I lay the waffle on the paper towel, and then I just gently roll it over the wooden spoon's handle. And I'm going to let this sit just for a little bit to make sure that it keeps the shape. I think it's cooled off enough to take it off. So we're going to first unroll the paper and then just gently take it off. Now this one is a little smaller than I would like, so I'm going to add more batter for the next one. But the color is perfect. Just a light golden brown. First one done, on to the next one. Close it, latch it, and now we're going to wait 1.5 minutes. You can only roll them when they're warm, which is why I like to use paper towel. So again, I'm going to start just tightly rolling it around the handle of the pollepel. And now I'm going to roll up the paper towel around it and let it sit and rest. So my friend from the Navy actually was telling me a story that this was a family activity. Everyone baking and rolling Nieuwjaarsrolletjes together. If you want to, you can make this a fun tradition for you and your family as well. There are two different ways of eating it, either just as is, or you can fill it with plain whipped cream or some flavored whipped cream. You do want to make sure that they're fully cooled off before you fill them. This recipe made 15 Nieuwjaarsrolletjes, but my wife and I both ate one for quality control, of course, so we only have 13 left. It's time to make the Kniepertjes. I have my station ready, the balls of dough that I took out of the fridge about 10 minutes ago, just to give them a little bit of time to soften a little bit, a plate to put them on, and a spatula to take them off the iron. I'm going to take a ball of dough and just flatten it between my hands, just a little bit, and then I put it on the iron, not quite in the center, a little bit closer to the hinge, close it, latch it, and now cook it for 1 minute. Okay, 1 minute is done, so we're gonna open it up, Take it out and put it on a flat plate. After all these years, mine never turn out to be perfectly round. Doesn't make a difference, they still taste the same. Next one. One minute. I'm going to continue baking the rest of them and I'll see you when I'm done. My last kniepertje is on the iron. Let's take it off. Now we're going to let them cool before we can try them. The moment I've been waiting for to eat the Kniepertjes and the Nieuwjaarsrolletjes. We're actually going to start with Nieuwjaarsrolletjes. Here of course is an empty one, but traditionally they are filled with whipped cream. Now I filled these with a cinnamon flavored whipped cream. 2 teaspoons of cinnamon whisked together with about 250 milliliters or a cup of whipping cream and some sugar. So let's start with that. Eet Smakelijk. It's so good. The cookie has a hint of vanilla in there. The texture is nice and crispy. And then that cinnamon whipped cream is just a great addition to it. Absolutely, absolutely love it. Let's try the Leaning Tower of Kniepertjes. First thing I want you to do is hear the snap. It is so crispy. They're both crispy cookies. But because one is a dough and the other is a batter, there is a textural difference. Of course, this has the cinnamon added, so there's just the slightest hint of cinnamon underneath that buttery flavor of the cookie. Now, we typically eat these plain or with some ice cream or some leftover cinnamon whipping cream, but I'd love to hear how you eat it at home when you make kniepertjes. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please click the like and subscribe button and don't forget to share it with your friends. If you have any questions or memories of kniepertjes and Nieuwjaarsrolletjes, I would love to hear from you in the comments. I'll post a recipe with both cups and grams on my website, toineskitchen.com, and you can follow me on social media as well. If you make my recipe, I would love it if you take a photo of it and post it on Instagram with the hashtag Toines Kitchen. I will feature it in my story and on my website. Thanks, and we'll see you in the new year.